the phosphorus management and the combination of phosphorus and potassium. And then we will have also Duarte, who will discuss with you some of his work on the quality of the forage, as well as some of the related work for like forage as feed, and how we can like bring the people who are on the other side of the aisle, quote unquote, dairymen and like feedlots, to the discussion as well. But without further delay, if you have this handout, and I think we'll have it also online as a presentation, I will discuss with you today some of the work that we are doing with three major pests that we have here in the desert. First, sugarcane aphid and sorghum, and some spider mites in corn, silage corn, and finally the Texas root rot in alfalfa, and the work that we did over the last few years. So first here we will have this work on the sugarcane aphid. As you can see, this is just, on the side here, this is a leaf of sorghum, has that much aphid. This became quite, bad, but it's normal now for our sorghum growers. They have this much of this sugarcane aphid. It's quite, quite a creature by itself, because from the name, it's sugarcane aphid. It used to feed in sugarcane, but because of many of resistant varieties against this aphid, it's not a problem in sugarcane anymore. But it's switch feeding from sugarcane to sorghum. And when we are talking about sorghum, it's about the sorghum genus in general, not only what we grow for silage or for seeds. Like any other plant belongs to the genus sorghum, like some of the grasses that we have, like Johnson grass or anything like Sudan grass. And they are feed on them, and it make a huge, impact on the whole production area from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific. In just about 5 years, they covered all the southern states from coast to coast. And it came to us here in Arizona in 2016. It wasn't a surprise by itself, but was a surprise how fast it covered this area in a very short time. They adapted quite well. They have a huge reproductive potential. They can I don't know how many folds they can increase their population with, but some of our estimate in the lab is going through about maybe 10 times the population, or 10-fold the population in about 2 weeks. So we imagine how it's that. And it's not like strange for aphid, because we know aphid mostly, they are reproduced by asexually, so there's only females, and they have inside them some of the eggs that already hatch to give birth to nymphs, and these nymphs already had eggs that already about to hatch as well. So you have in one female regeneration there. So they are quite good in doing that. At the beginning, we don't have much option for the management of these, but just to apply some of the chemistries that we have, and we still rely on them as well. But we also did some work on modifying the planting date for sorghum to see if we can escape the population of this sugarcane aphid and sorghum. And the graph here is this first page here, just show you one of the years that we have this early planting date. Most of the time, we hit this population, or the population actually hit the plant around mid to third week of August in our area here in Arizona. So by early planting.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
That can impact these.
Fantastic.
And we did that.
Well, you know what? I'm running pretty good.
Example of them.
I'm on a.
You can see, yes, we have some of the aphid, but they are not sugarcane aphid. There are other 2 species of aphid that they are not doing much damage or much problem for sorghum. And they are just below here, the green bug and the cornleaf aphid. And it's quite important to distinguish these two from the sugarcane aphid. So, the sugarcane aphid, as in the picture here, you can see they are yellowish in color. They have these 2 dark color cornicles. The tips of the antenna and the legs are darker as well. You need to distinguish it from especially the cornleaf aphid, because they have the head and the first segment of the thorax or the back of their body are darker in color. And they have also these cornicles that are darker in color that might resemble sugarcane aphid, but they are quite distinguishable. And the green bug is another aphid that is a little bit larger. It's green in color. They have a little bit of yellow line on the back, so it's a little bit different than the other. But this is important, especially early in the season, because I received many calls early on. People have, oh, we have sugarcane aphid, and I go there, and what I found was like corn leaf or green bug. We don't do anything to these, and we shouldn't, because they cannot like stand the heat in our environment here, and they will go on their own. You don't need to apply any chemicals for them early in the season. One reason also because we need to conserve as much of the natural enemies early on, so they can help in the management of sugarcane aphid if they come later on. So that's mostly, one solution of how you can get this sugarcane aphid under control in sorghum. It's quite important if you are relying on early planting to choose a variety that will not be impacted by this early planting date, because we tried some in our experiment at MAG, and some years we have good yield, some other we don't because of the variety differences in terms of which one can approach the maximum yield without accumulating that much heat unit, because we know sorghum is like corn and cotton here. They need that much heat unit during the growing season to reach their yield potential. The other methods of management or control that we have for sugarcane aphid was the chemical control. And for that, since 2016, I believe we are running like two regimens of chemical management of sugarcane aphid. One is dependent on the foliar application. We just go and we apply insecticides when we have the population, just like by spraying the canopy or just spraying the foliar. And the other method is by injecting like one chemical mostly, which is like Sivanto, in the seed bed at planting time, and we call it like in-furrow injection. And we combine that as well with some foliar application, and we see what is the difference. So in the following two graphs here, I'm just sharing with you the results last year, 2020, of these two different methods of the chemical application. The first one here is the foliar application. And as you can see, we have many of these products that are working quite good and mitigating the population and putting them under check, especially like Transform and Sivanto at different rates here, as they are explained in the area, as well as another product like Safina. The thing is, I just noticed it in 2020 is that we have a product here like Centric. It's not registered yet, but it showed a very good potential in the previous 2 years, in 2019 and 18. But here in 2020, we don't see that much. And we have it again this year in 2021 in our experiment to see whether this is just 1 year trend or this is something that we need to investigate more. So this is for the foliar application of management of sugarcane aphid. The second graph here is the one that's from last year for the in-furrow injection, that when we apply this Sivanto at different rate at the planting time in the seed bed. And we use like a special nozzle with a single hole, and we just shoot the product at the planting when we put the seed in the soil. And what happens is just you are covering the seed bed, and you have this kind of protection against the sugarcane aphid from the beginning. It goes into the seed, and then it goes systematically into the plant. And we have like different rate of the Transform, and it's I'm sorry, of the Sivanto here, and it's mostly like 2, 4, and I think this is here when we were using it, we used like the higher rates of Sivanto, the higher formulation of it, but with the Sivanto prime that we are using like right now, it would be 2, 4, and 8 ounce per acre. And we did that only as an injection, or combine that with a foliar application later on with either Sivanto or Centric. And as you can see, like the bottom here is mostly the injection one or the injection plus foliar. That's, keeps this population very, very low. And it didn't go like or expand any further than maybe like most of the time 100 or 150 if that's accumulated over the season. While when we have like again some kind of foliar only, the difference is big here, and you can see it in this graph here. So some would come and say, okay, what if I don't have like a population later on? I'm just like injecting it early in the season. It's kind of insurance, but for like how many years now? Since 2016, this insect didn't fail us in terms of appearing, somehow in August or maybe earlier some places and infest our sorghum here. So this is mostly what we are doing for the management of this insect, the sugarcane aphid. And we have, almost similar kind of set of experiments that we are running at MAG. That we are replicating this experiment to see if we have any trend or something that wasn't working, that is, it was just 1 year, or if we have any kind of product that is not perform as well. So this for sugarcane aphid. Any questions so far? I don't have the date here, but again, it's around like third week of August. Yeah. Yeah, we for the foliar, we don't go like preemptively. We just wait until we have the population and we apply. But the thing is, and again, thank you for the question, is we need to act fast when we have these. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, they're really good in terms of like multiplying their population in a very short time. So once you know it's a colony somewhere in the field, that's mean they are there. There is no way back from them unless we have like a huge concern or something like that. So even with that happen one year, but we still have them and we can do a lot of that. Okay. The other insects that we are dealing with, and we just finished one experiment of them this year, and we work on it for like the last few years, is the corn mites, and mostly like we are talking here about spider mite. And this is here like just some of the picture of this spider mite, the eggs, and the motile, which is like the nymph, and the adult here. And they are feeding on silage corn quite good actually, if they have like that population there. And they can reduce both of the yield and the quality as well, because they dry out the leaves and the green parts of it. And this is here just an aerial image of like one of our experiments here. As you can see, this is a plots that we are established at Maricopa Ag Center, and we apply some of these miticides that we have over the years, and we see how they are performing so far. I'm just sharing with you like the graph here, and it was like a warning sign for us, because if you see, and especially like if you follow the yellow bar, you will find like a year where we don't have much, and then a very high population, and then going low the following year, returning high again. And sound like that, we have this, wavy population of spider mite in our valley, or like our state here. So we have a high population 1 year and then going low the following, and so on. So last year, I didn't even find any population to do a trial at MAG. This year we have huge population, so it's going this way almost like since we started at 2014. But the thing that I want you to pay attention to is that, especially in the high years, we have good, control with whatever chemicals that we are using. In 2019, it is not as good. And it's almost the same set of chemistry here. And again, we tried to have this experiment 2020, but we didn't have the population, but we did this experiment again this year. So far, like we have better news than 2019. So most of the chemistry there are working quite good. So this might be like 1 year, but again, we should like keep an eye on that, because this is a pest in corn, maybe like the only pest in corn that we care about. But we need to make sure that whatever chemistry that we are using is effective. because we don't want to get going out of whack, because in 1 year in our experiment, it happens that our corn and silage sorghum were beside each other. And we have huge amount of the mites in the corn. And when we just harvest the corn, many of these mites moved to the sorghum, and it was bad. It was really bad. So because this pest can go, between the two crops, we need to keep an eye also on sorghum and see how much it might affect it as well. So as I said, we ran one experiment this year, and we finish it just like a matter of crunching the data now and see. But so far, from what I saw, it's better than 2019. So that's a little bit of relief so far. Okay. Any questions so far about spider mite? Good. So finally, I'll just talk about one other pest. It's not insect. It's a pathogen that we did a lot of work on it, starting with cotton back in 2012, and for we call it like Texas root rot or root rot, because it can affect like many crops in our system here, especially cotton and alfalfa. So we did good in terms of like managing cotton with it, and we had a registration for a good product that we're using experimentally. So it's called like Top Guard, or the active ingredient is the flowtrifol. And we did that, I think it got registration for cotton back in 2013. And then we were like running multiple experiments since 2015 about how this product can work also on Texas root rot in alfalfa. And like the map here showed some of the location of this experiment that we did from 2015 to 2019. And I would like just to share with you, these two graphs here, because they are explain a little bit of what we have so far. For this one here, this is the one we did in Enterprise Ranch, just in like South Arlington. And you can see we have like different rate here. We have like 4 ounce, 7.5 ounce, even 15 ounce, and 2 shots of 7.5 and 7.5. This treatment, we are doing it different from cotton. In cotton, you have to incorporate it somehow during the planting with the seed. But here we just apply after we clear, after the first cut. So you have your first cut mostly like around January, February, and you clear the swaths and you clear the windrow, and just before irrigation, that's quite important. We apply it on top of the plant like that. This is work here, just applying this product here in one of our locations. It's important to apply water very shortly after the application, because this product needs infiltration in the soil. So either we have, like for all of our experiment, either we have the irrigation the same night after we did our application, or the following day. And as I said, it's quite important to do that. And here, like some picture, I don't know if it's like visible, to show you like a difference between some of the plot that was treated and not treated here after, at the end of the season. Back again to the graph here, you can see like the 4 ounce only is doing way better in terms of the, and we see that not only in this location, but on many other locations. So you can apply the 2 shots of like 7.5 and 7.5, but you need really an area that is really heavily infested with this pathogen to need that much of the product. You can apply the 7.5 only, but it will not give you a significant difference from the 4 ounce. Again, unless you have a very heavily infested area. So if you have like a moderate, infection of this fungus, you can go with the 4 ounce. That's my recommendation. Take me on these. But we have another situation here, and that's, again, this is here in 2017 in 2 locations. One of them at Pure Point Farm, just south of here, and the other one on the Colorado River in the Indian Reservation farm there. So 2 different locations, but the main characteristic of these 2 locations is that we have heavy infestation in the area that we ran this experiment at. And if you look at, the top two graphs here, the two in light green and dark green, this is where you have like 2 shots of 4+4 after first cut, and then you go again after the second cut. The one just underneath it is the one that has only one application of 4 ounce. And then you have like the 7.5 ounce, the yellow one, and then the untreated is the one in the bottom. You can see the difference here. Because these 2 areas was heavily infested or infected with the fungus, that's why we can see the benefit of having 2 shots of the 4.5 ounce. But even like the 4 ounce is still doing quite good. And from our statistical point of view, they are not significant, although they are numerically significant. But 7.5, even one time, is not as good. That's, again, I'm not plant pathologist, but it can tell me that there is something here. It might be like phytotoxicity, it might be something else. But again, in our area and our type of soils, maybe like going with a very high rate is not a good option. And of course, the untreated is like quite different from that. So this is here like what we found so far. And this is like from multiple years of this product working on different locations with different types of soil and also like different years in terms of like the climate and temperature as well. Any questions so far? No, for all of this, we are working with the Terra. For all of this, we are working with Top Guard Terra. Very clear. That's good. That's good. So I think we will continue with our program today. Thank you for listening up over the question, and we'll